Shall we talk about Russell Brand?
Yeah, this sort of seems to lead on naturally, doesn't it?
So, I mean, if you could spell out for people what Russell's been saying about the farmers in the Netherlands, and how that relates to actually quite a long history, actually not just of conspiracy theories, but particularly actually the far right and that connection to the land and farmers.
Yeah. So Russell used to be a hero of mine, right? In 2014, The Guardian said, "Will you nominate your hero of the year?" And I nominated Russell Brand. And he was amazing. He was doing incredible stuff. I mean, he's a brilliant guy. You know, he's super smart. He's very fast. He's funny. He's got a great way of reaching people, of talking to people, and his talents were then put to good use. You know, he was mobilizing people. He was sort of helping to sort of build a revolutionary left, which was actually attending to real issues. Since then, blimey, I mean, he's just completely jumped the shark, and he's gone on to what is highly lucrative, gets him massive viewing. He's got 6 million subscribers on YouTube. He gets a great deal of attention. He can monetize that attention. I've seen his company accounts. I mean, he's making millions every year. This is a highly lucrative business. So when he tells you you're being exploited by multimillionaires, he's not wrong, right? And in this particular case, he's been promoting this idea, which has become very popular among the far right, that the Dutch government is trying to throw farmers off the land, and the far right then goes on to say, and put immigrants in their place, and asylum seekers. It's going to get rid of the true people of the land. Now, Russell hasn't mentioned the immigrants bit, but all the other components are there in the conspiracy theory that he's been promoting. That, you know, what is really going on in the Netherlands is that there is a court ruling as a result of European law saying we're just producing far too much nitrate pollution, we're trashing the whole ecosystem by pouring all these nitrates out into rivers and onto the land, which it just can't absorb. And as a result, it's trashing everything. The rivers are turning into filthy sewers, basically, and we're causing pollution at sea as the rivers pour into the sea, all the rest of it. And that is just straightforwardly against environmental law. Now, having neglected this issue for far too long, finally, after this court ruling in 2019, the Dutch government said, all right, well, we have to take action. We've got no choice now. We're legally obliged to take action. So we have to encourage the major nitrate pollution, sources of pollution to change their practice. And the biggest polluters of nitrate pollution in the Netherlands is the livestock industry. So the government produced all these incentives, all this encouragement to change, but a lot of livestock farmers just flatly refused. They said, we're not going to change this. And so the final option is to say, well, you know, if you won't do this voluntarily, we're going to have to buy you out. They offer them a very good deal, more than the value of their farms for compulsory purchase. But then the far right got hold of it, not just in the Netherlands, but all over the world, fomented by people like Tucker Carlson in the US, but pushed through far right channels worldwide. And it became part of this great replacement conspiracy theory. The farmers are the true, authentic, rooted people of the land. They are being evicted to make way for globalists and aliens and elitists who are bizarrely asylum seekers and immigrants, refugees, who are going to be moved onto the land in their place. And this is part of a global conspiracy coordinated by the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates and Monsanto. None of them, incidentally, have anything to do with the Dutch government's nitrate rulings. You know, I mean, there's things to be said about all of them, but they're completely unconnected to this issue in the Netherlands. Monsanto hasn't existed since 2018. The World Economic Forum, I mean, it stinks, but it's got absolutely nothing to do with it. And Bill Gates, yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff he does I really dislike, but he's got absolutely nothing to do with this. And so what does Russell Brand do? He wades into this and he goes on about, the farmers are being thrown off the land, so that there's this great land grab inspired by the World Economic Forum, by Monsanto, by Bill Gates. He's just sort of hitting every one of those click triggers. You know, they're all terms which guarantee a particular audience. You know, this stuff is very popular. It races around far-right circles all over the world. And while he's not specifically pushing a far-right narrative, he's pushing a narrative that plays with the far right, if you see the distinction. So he chooses topics which are of interest to the far right. I mean, if you look at his videos, there's almost no topic anywhere in his videos which aren't of intense interest to the far right. And yet there's huge issues he never touches, but those issues are the ones that the far right's not interested in. So he'll latch onto stuff which is completely petty and ridiculous, but has got massive far right traction. You know, he's not on the far right, but he's cynically playing to that audience because that is where the attention is and that is where the money is. That is how to get eyeballs. And so he's pushing this theme, which is just the latest version of a very old and very dark conspiracy theory. Because this great replacement idea with the globalists pushing the true authentic people, the farmers, off the land and replacing them, is actually an update of the Nazi blood and soil story. And the Nazis talked about the true Aryan people of the land, who are the farmers, the authentic Germans, being displaced by cosmopolitans and aliens, by which they meant Jews. And this blood and soil narrative was a major driver of the Holocaust and the other atrocities that the Nazis committed. Now, Russell's a bright guy, but does he understand what he's doing? Does he understand the fire he's playing with? I don't know. I can't say. Only he knows that. But he is certainly playing with fire, and he's promoting one of the nastiest, darkest, most dangerous and destructive conspiracy theories ever aired.
There's you're right to talk about it in that way, and I'm often confused when people, for example, talk about the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum, or you could look at the recent furore around 15-minute cities, which seems to me to be quite a banal urban planning system, and it's sort of interpreted as this attempt to imprison people and stop them from leaving their local area. And I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about oligarchy and conspiracy, because typically those actors, you mentioned Hitler there, Mussolini as well, their connection to extraordinary wealth and how it serves, and how wealth often serves to misdirect and promote these nonsense theories because it gets you looking in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, this is a great irony. You've got Russell ranting away about the elite on a platform, Rumble, which is financed, among others, by Peter Thiel, one of the most unpleasant billionaires on the planet. For billionaires, it works very well to have us misdirected and to ensure that we attack scapegoats rather than looking at the people who are actually trashing our lives and trashing the planet, who are the oligarchs. Now, when we say oligarchs, people think of Russians, but actually there's oligarchs in every country. Rupert Murdoch is an oligarch.
Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, Rishi Sunak is an oligarch. He's our first oligarch prime minister. There's some very, very unpleasant oligarchs who have inordinate, huge power. They translate their economic power into political power. Charles Koch, Robert Mercer. These people are deeply dangerous, deeply sinister. They are a direct threat to democracy and a direct threat to our life support systems, because the interests they promote are extremely damaging to our life support systems. And so, they are very well served by these conspiracy theories, which have us fighting each other, which have us fighting spectres. So if you take the World Economic Forum and its Great Reset, for instance. Now, the World Economic Forum is a pretty disgusting organization. They bring together some of the richest, most powerful people every year in Davos, and they all scratch each other's backs, and they all agree that they're wonderful people and everybody else is shit. That's basically the approach. And Klaus Schwab, who runs it, is a real schmoozer. He's an easy person to demonize because he just has spent his whole life sort of rubbing the backs of the rich and powerful. But he's got no power in his own right. He can bring these people together, but he's not the puppet master. He's not the controller of the New World Order, like the conspiracy theorists say. I mean, part of the story comes about because there's this photo of him wearing what looks like a sort of Ming the Merciless sort of space suit, standing at a podium which has got these weird logos on it, where people say, obviously this is him running a great Masonic conspiracy. And actually, he's wearing a gown from a Lithuanian university which was awarding him an honorary doctorate. It's a really weird gown, but that's all it is. And the logos are the logos of the university. So, it's the stupidest reasons that people latch onto this stuff. But the oligarchs must be rubbing their hands with glee because we're not focusing on them. Who's trashed this country more than anybody else? Rupert Murdoch. He doesn't even live here. And yet he's got more power than all the voters put together. Government stand or fall on his word. He is the kingmaker. He determines basically who wins the election by throwing his weight behind those people, whether it's Fox News in the US, whether it's the Sun, the Times, and the rest of his stable. Here in the UK, his massive impacts he's got in Australia. I mean, basically, wherever Rupert Murdoch is, politics goes to shit. Why aren't we focused on him? Does Russell Brand ever mention Rupert Murdoch? Is he interested in him? No, because the far right is not interested in Rupert Murdoch, because Rupert Murdoch is aligned with them. Fox News is a Murdoch vehicle, and that is one of the most important platforms for the far right.